Welcome back to a new post today, and with the prelims 2025, let's get into the important points for May 24th, and that's day 5. I'm sorry. So the very first one coming up is about the Nairobi Washington vision. Now Kenya, African country, and USA are strengthening ties, and therefore during the recent visit of the Kenyan President William Ruto, who made his visit to Washington, Joe Biden, he met the President Joe Biden, and they promised to deepen each other's promised to deepen ties between each other. And let me tell you that USA has designated Kenya as the country's first major non-NATO ally in the sub-Saharan African country. So the US has designated already 18 countries as non-NATO allies, including Israel, Brazil, and Philippines. Nairobi Washington vision now is Biden's appeal to the African nations that US is a better partner than Beijing, especially in investments in the continent and also with its low rate of interest. On the other hand, China offers investment but at a very, very high interest rate, and therefore takes advantage of the debt situation of the country in the later years. Now, in the past year, Africa's political landscape has been upended by a spate of military coup and also wars and also shaky elections that have given the US's rival China and Russia more significant influence in the region. US has backed investments in green energy, health, manufacturing, along with the plan to cut Kenya's high debt loan, most of which is owned to China, and therefore they have spelled out the Nairobi Washington vision, and Kenya becoming the first non-NATO ally of US in the sub-Saharan country. Now the second one is about exercise by China, which is called as the Joint Sword 2024A. Now China military began its second day of war games around Taiwan with drills that it said were to test the armed forces' ability to seize power in Taiwan. So it was a direct announcement of it is going to use strength to take into control Taiwan, and to also take control of the key areas of the self-ruled democracy. Now, as the first day of the exercises, codenamed Joint Sword 2024A, got underway, China described them as a punishment following recent inauguration speech by the new Taiwanese President William Lai Ching-te, in which he said that Taiwan was sovereign, independent nation with sovereignty resting in the people, and it did not have any ties with Beijing. Now, Beijing claims the island as its own and has not ruled out the use of force to achieve the goal of unification with Taiwan under the One China policy. It also showed images of Chinese Coast Guard vessels and other Navy ships taking part in the drills near the Pangaea Islet north of the Taiwan. So the points for you to remember are the Pangaea Islet north of Taiwan. Please look into Taiwan Strait and also the South China Sea, along with Joint Sword 2024A, which is a military exercise by China. Let's look at the key question about why China claims Taiwan actually. So the claims date back to Taiwan's first settlers, which were Austro-Asian people that have believed to come from South China, that is a modern South China. China's records appear to first mention the island as AD 239, when an emperor dispatched a force to it, a fact that Beijing uses to claim the territory. After a brief spell, a Dutch colony, Taiwan was administered by the China's Qing dynasty, and before it was ceded to Tokyo under the Japanese-Sino War. So after the World War II, Japan therefore surrendered and relinquished the control of the Taiwanese territory from China, and afterwards Taiwan was officially considered a part of the Republic of China, which began ruling with the consent of its allies, that is US and UK. But in a few years, a war broke out in China, and the then leader Chiang Kai-shek's troops were defeated by Mao Zedong in the Communist Army, and Chiang's remnants of his Kuomintang government and their supporters fled to Taiwan in 1949. Chiang therefore established the dictatorship and ruled Taiwan till 1980s. Following his death, Taiwan became a transition to democracy and held its first election in 1996. So China claims Taiwan as a part of the settlement by the Austro-Asian tribal people that came from South China. Then it was part of the Qing dynasty, and therefore it was a part of the Chinese territory until the Civil War broke out. So on these basis, China claims Taiwan as a part of its own territory, though it is administered independently and under the One China policy, and US recognizes the One China policy as well as India as well. So recently heavy rain in Kerala heavy rains have started in Kerala. We have the southwest monsoons already entered into Kerala, and therefore IMD issued a orange alert. Now color coded weather warnings are issued by IMD to alert the people about the severe or hazardous weather that could cause damage, disruption or danger to life. It uses 4 color code warnings. You have to remember this: green, yellow, orange and amber, and red depending upon the severity of the weather phenomena. IMD issues the color coded alerts to keep people informed of the upcoming weather events and the severity, and these alerts are issued in the event of inclement weather conditions like rain, snowfall, thunderstorms, squalls, hailstorm, dust storm and even heat waves and cold waves as well. So color coded warnings are issued by IMD for all these weather events. Now certain parameters determine the color codes which are issued. For green, yellow, orange, red are 4 color codes. The assessment is likelihood on the event occurring or the impact based on valid maximum of 5 days. When it comes to rainfall, green denotes a rainfall less than 64 millimeters in 24 hours. When it issues yellow, it is rainfall between the range of 64.5 millimeters to 115.5 millimeters, and orange alert indicates rainfall between 115 millimeters to 204 millimeters in a single day, and a red alert issues means rainfall between 204 millimeters in 24-hour period. Now these alerts are primarily for the people who live in affected areas and how they should react in a specific situation. While the wind speed determines the alert issued during thunderstorms, visibility range becomes a deciding factor during the foggy conditions. Now in case of dust storms also, both wind speed and visibility are taken into account while issuing an alert. And the next most important issue is about the microplastics pollution in Ashtamudi Lake. Ashtamudi Lake is a Ramsar wetland in Kollam district of Karnataka in Kerala. And the study recently found out that the brackish water lakes fish, shellfish, sediment and water have microplastics in them. The highest percentage of composition of microplastic was found in the macrofauna, and the fish accounting for 19.6% and shellfish 40.9%. Now microplastics are plastic fragments less than 5 millimeters in length. So you have to remember this. This is microplastics are less than 5 millimeters in length. The findings have been published in a study called as the It was published by Department of Aquatic Biology and Fisheries under the University of Kerala with support of the Eco-Marine project co-funded by Erasmus program of the European Union. And Ashtamudi wetland was designated as a Ramsar site in 2022 considering the estuarine. So it is an estuarine ecosystem. The estuarine system's extraordinary importance for hydrological functions, its biodiversity and also its support for fish. The next most important issue is with regard to NSCN. Now, the Indian forces there was some news that the Indian forces are using Kuki and Naga groups to wage a war against the state, and this was covered by NIA, that is National Investigation Agency, that was set up in 2008 in the aftermath of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. So, the NSCN, or the National Social Council of Nagaland, which has 2 factions, demands for Greater Nagalim. Now, Greater Nagalim is an area of 1,20,000 square kilometers, not only in the northeast but also parts of Myanmar. It covers sizable portion of Assam's Tinsukia, Cheradio, Sivasagar, Jorhat, Golaghat, Karbi and along Dima Hasdeo districts, and all of Longding, Tirap, Changlang, Lohit and Namsai of Arunachal Pradesh, large parts of Manipur, Ukril, Senapati, Chandel and Tamanglong districts, and the area of Nagaland presently is only a fraction of the demand for Greater Nagalim. It is only 16,527 kilometers, and let me tell you that Nagaland has a special status under Article 371A of the Constitution of India, and so there are certain special provisions for Nagaland, and the Greater Nagaland spans across northeast and Myanmar, especially in the states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, and Manipur. So these are the states. The next one is Chardham Yatra. Now recently the Chardham Yatra has kick-started, and it consists of Gangotri, Yamunotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath, and located in Uttarakhand. So you can identify them on the map. And the next most important issues regard with World Health Assembly. Now the 77th session of the World Health Assembly will convene under the banner of All for Health and Health for All. Scheduled from 27 May to 1st June with the participation of the Ministries of Health and other high-level countries country representatives. The Health Assembly serves as a critical platform for addressing existing global challenges like HIV, measles, polio amidst the climate emergency and rise of conditions like hypertension and obesity as well. One of the pivotal things anticipated in this World Health Assembly is the Pandemic Prevention, Preparedness and Response Accord. So it's a Pandemic Prevention, Preparedness and Response Accord and amendments to the international health regulations, signaling an effort by the member states to bolster global response with regard to pandemic-like situations. So this accord has to be remembered, and also the World Health Assembly as well. And the next most important is with regard to India now declined to provide rice to the UN rice tenders and the World Food Program, keeping in mind its inflation and at-home food security. Now, the World Food Program provides food relief to populations hit by conflict, disaster and impact of climate change. It functions under the United Nations. The World Food Program recently invited tenders for supply of broken rice to 4 countries: Spain, Cameroon, Togo and Algeria, and the Director General of Foreign Trade has received representations to allow Indian rice exporters to participate in the tender process. Several African nations are heavily dependent on the rice imports from India. Togo imported 88% of its rice from India last year. Benin, the largest importer of broken rice, procured 61%, while almost half of Senegal's imports of grains come from India. So India participates largely in the global food security program, but recently it has not granted permission to the rice exporters to participate into the United Nations World Food Program, citing at-home inflation and also food security concerns as well. And the next most important issue is with regard to the ministerial conference, and then we end the session. So the ministerial conference of the WTO members have met at UAE in Abu Dhabi recently in February 29th, and the ministerial conference is a body which brings the WTO members together at a ministerial level every 2 years. The ministerial conference can take decisions on all the matters under any multilateral trade agreements. Comoros and East Timor were accepted as the 2 new WTO members, Comoros and East Timor. More than 120 countries and regions including China and European Union, but not the United States, issued a ministerial declaration on February 26th, marking finalization of an agreement aimed at facilitating international investments in development. So this was the highlight of the ministerial conference that was held in Abu Dhabi in UAE in the month of February. And what exactly is the ministerial conference of the WTO? So this was the most important points that you had to track for day 5 for May 24th, and I shall see you tomorrow in another new set of important points for the prelims 2025. Until then, it's very happy learning.